Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to show you how I made and I'm going to fly this RC wing. Before we fly it, let's take a look at how it's made. So the first step in this project was to cut out the wings. To do this, I used my CNC Foam cutter that I built in a previous video. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll put a link in the description to where you can find it. This wing uses the MH49 airfoil and has a 250mm root cord and a 125mm tip cord. As you can see, when the wings come out of the foam cutter, the trailing edge can sometimes be a little thin and messed up, so I trim it down so it's ready to accept the elevons. I trimmed down each wing to the length of 19.5 inches to give the overall flying wing a wingspan of about 42 inches. In this build I'm using oak spars. Oak is probably a little heavier than I'd like to use, but it's what I had laying around, so I went with it. Once I had test fitted the spars, I could cut them to length and glue them in the wing. To glue in the spars, I use Gorilla Glue, which can be kind of annoying sometimes because of all the foam it creates, but in this case it actually helped fill in the gaps that were left between the spar and the foam, so it worked out very well. Anyone that has worked with Gorilla Glue before will know that it's activated by water, which is actually kind of counterintuitive and kind of weird to do the first time you do it, but in this case I just wetted down the spar with a rag, and so that way when I set it in the groove in the wing, it would activate all the Gorilla Glue. This flying wing uses a 3D printed fuselage section. I did this because it's easy to design and you can iterate on it really fast, and the way I designed it's kind of modular, so I can make improvements to certain parts of it in the future. So I used some 2-part 5-minute epoxy to actually attach the wings to the fuselage and then fasten the spars into the fuselage body using screws. So most RC flying wings are coated in some sort of plastic. I know a lot of people in the RC community swear by monocoat, but I've actually been using these PVC shrink wrap bags, and they seem to work pretty well. If I'm doing a middle section of a wing, then I slice off the closed end of the bag so I have a tube that can slide over the body of the wing. Once the bag is on the wing, you can just heat it up with a hairdryer or a heat gun, and it'll actually shrink like rather violently. It's kind of frightening actually, but it shrinks onto the wing and forms kind of like a hard shell. At first, the shrink wrap job will look pretty bad, but if you're just patient and kind of just go over the wrinkly spots, it'll all smooth itself out and form a very nice, smooth outer coating. When I'm doing the edge of a wing, I keep the closed end of the bag attached so that the whole wing gets coated in the plastic. It's also important to note when you're doing this that the plastic does not actually stick to the foam, it's just a coating that goes around it. So if you're not happy with how a shrink wrap turned out, you can literally just cut it off and redo it. And these bags are super cheap. I think I bought like 100 of them for $8 on Amazon. So it's definitely forgiving and you can just keep trying it. It took me a couple times to get the hang of it, but once you get it, you can get a really nice finish on your wing. Also, when this plastic is heated up and then cools down, it actually gets a little bit harder, so it forms a pretty firm layer of plastic on the outside. I designed and printed a fuselage canopy cover to cover up all the electronics we're going to put into the fuselage. It's printed out of this weird PLA wood filament. I don't like it a lot, but it's all I had left, so I used it. So as you probably noticed, there's a gap in the front of the fuselage where more foam wing needs to go. So I used the CNC foam cutter to cut out the front section of a airfoil so I could glue that in there. To attach the elevons to the wing, I used packing tape. One perk of using the PVC bags as a coating for the wing is that packing tape sticks very well to it. On the bottom of the wing, I use a couple more strips of packing tape just to make sure the elevon doesn't peel off. So for the servos in this build, I'm using some just really cheap Amazon 9-gram servos. So to set them into the foam, I just trace around them in Sharpie and then cut it out with an X-Acto knife. This plane is just going to use a quadcopter motor with a tri-blade prop. I designed this kind of modular motor mount system so I could, in theory, just swap it in and out if I wanted to, or change the motor configuration. I wouldn't have to reprint everything. So the motor just mounts onto this motor mount piece, and then that piece screws into the main body of the plane. The rest of the electronics for this build are very straightforward. I'm just using an airplane ESC and then a 3S LiPo battery. After all the electronics were installed and working, all that was left to do was to test it and then give it a paint job and then fly it. Alright, take two. Oh God. Oh no. Rip. So it took a gnarly crash, basically cracked in half, but Scotch tape came to the rescue and it's back in one piece. So we're going to try to fly it again. We're going to switch up people flying because I can't fly planes to save my life, so yeah, see how it goes. Killed my beautiful plane.
I didn't see the branch sticking out.
Oh, what's the damage like? Oh boy, she still fly. She'll fly again. the battery punched through the front of the plane. That's good on the battery, I'm sure.
A little piece up here, right for the.
There's a lot of debris.
Was it the NTSB that does like crash stuff?
Boys, this battery might be. Listen, it makes it not tail heavy anymore. We're good. Absolute unit. All right. Going for round number 3. All right, guys, round 3. Only like 3 pounds of Scotch tape on that. So it crashed over there in the field, and the focus on it, it's still twitching. Guys, I see 2 winglets on the same side, so that's not looking good. Oh no, she's folded in half.
Easier transportation on the way home.
Exactly.
Look at that, it's now the grass.
It's now a compact.
Look at that.
Oh yeah, she made a dent in the grass. Listen, the battery stayed put though. Well, I see this as an absolute win. I think Scotch tape will still fix it, but might have to come back another day. Might have to be revisited, we'll see. Alright guys, so obviously it didn't fly incredibly well. I think it could have flown a little better with some tuning or maybe a bigger area to fly. It moved really quick once it was in the air, and then the control surfaces had a lot of deflection, so it was pretty touchy on the sticks. But overall, I think I'm just going to reprint the center section and turn it into basically another wing, because the actual wings are still good. So until next time, thanks for watching.